Chapter 91 Truth About the World. Countless epochs ago, in the sky of the Ethereum realm, atop an endless sea, 12 peak powerhouses from the 4 continents sat around a round table. Epoch, billions of years. You should know about the gathering this time, Fialon, a powerhouse from the arcane continent, started.
What about it?
Alabaster Whitefire from the Beast continent said impatiently, banging the table. Didn't you read the message before you came here? Redius couldn't help but sigh at the stupidity of people from the Beast continent. He, Redius, the god of sun, fire, and light, was the strongest god from the divine continent. Don't mind that stupid beast, Fialon. Tell us about your plan, Valoros from Nexus continent urged. Valoros was the right-hand man of battle god, Malgrin, who didn't bother to attend this conference.
What did you say?
Alabaster got up from his chair, putting pressure on Valoros. The other 2 beastmen were also enraged, ready to fight people from the Nexus continent. Now, we are here to solve problems, not to fight, Fialon said to calm things down. As you may feel, we can no longer advance in this world. This is already the limit. If we don't do anything, sooner or later, we will be assimilated by the world, Fialon explained.
So what? Isn't it what we do?
Redius said. As gods, they walk the path of assimilating into the world, collecting faith, and managing the lives of common people. The other 9 powerhouses from the other 3 continents looked at the 3 gods with a bit of disgust. After all, while they too could follow the way of the gods in the divine continent, for them, it's a crooked path only chosen by losers. Moreover, their personality changes based on their divine godhead, something that disgusts them.
Then why are you still here?
Valoros asked. If they were not worried, why come here? Of course, to see your despair, ha ha ha. Redius couldn't help but clap his hands, looking at their expressions. This enraged the other 9, and they readied themselves to kill these bastards here and now. Wow, relax, although gods don't have to worry about the assimilation of the world, after all, we are the most greedy, Redius said, hoping to calm them down. How can we be satisfied with the 3 acres of land called Ethereum realm? We must make it bigger and stronger, Redius said as if he was preaching.
Humph.
Fialon just snorted at Redius. Come, tell me your plan. Don't waste our time here. Alabaster said impatiently. We plan to make everyone in the world powerful, whether they are peasants or kings. As long as they have talent, they can be trained. Fialon then explained his detailed plan, stating his lofty goal. It's indeed feasible, but how long will that take? Maybe we are already assimilated and it has yet to come to fruition, Valoros asked. We don't know, but as long as we concentrate resources on these talented people, sooner or later, the Ethereum realm will break out on its own, like a balloon full of air, Fialon explained. It's still too slow and inefficient, Valoros said.
Then what's your plan?
Alabaster asked. Of course, it's to sacrifice all the people in the world, leaving only a few for reproduction. The stronger the sacrifice, the more successful our sacrifice will be, Valoros said like a lunatic. You're dreaming. We won't sacrifice our believers for nothing, Redius sneered against this plan. The group from the arcane continent also didn't have good expressions at this moment. After all, these people that will be sacrificed had more or less had something to do with them. They're not like people from Nexus continent, solitary. They formed factions, families, and such, managing large amounts of people. Although they could be cruel towards others, they were reluctant when it came to their own. As for the group from the Beast continent, they didn't pay much attention to the matter, not fully understanding its implications. They believed they would only sacrifice most of the humans and weak beasts from their continent, and that would be the end of it. However, Valoros's plan meant sacrificing all the people in the Ethereum realm, except for Tier 9 beings and some breeding tools. Don't even think about this matter, Fialon said coldly.
Why not?
This could yield results earlier. Maybe it would be finished in just a few million years, Valoros sneered. As for your plan, it's indeed good, but who knows if it's even effective, Valoros said skeptically. Enough of this matter, we won't do it, Redius replied firmly. Hypocrites. Valoros murmured. Then we will follow my plan? Fialon asked. All right, it's all up to you. After all, you are good at these things, Redius said. The others had nothing to say, after all, Arcane Continent were the only ones who had the habit of passing knowledge. For the gods of the divine continent, God's power is supreme and it's sufficient enough for them to pass power down to their believers. The beast continent, on the other hand, didn't bother about this. They relied on their bloodline progression rather than dealing with this messy knowledge. As for the Nexus continent, it was like a wild and lawless land. All one could see was fighting, chaos, and domination. This environment also gave rise to a bunch of powerhouses with frightening combat abilities. If they were not so few in number, they could easily be regarded as the #1 continent. A few million years later, the 12 peak Tier 9 powerhouses in Arcane Continent carried out the plan I think you should take a look at. Among the 12, Sax, a Tier 9 formation array grandmaster, created an unprecedented array that covered the entire continent.
How is it?
Sax asked the other 11 arrogantly. Not bad. It only took you a few million years to cover the whole Arcane Continent, Fialon said.
This is just child's play.
If I wanted, I could cover the whole Ethereum realm with a formation array in just a few epochs, Sax bragged but also sighed, dreaming of such a feat. It was indeed possible to cover the whole Ethereum realm with a formation array, but to do so, one needed the agreement of powerhouses from other continents.
But how could that be?
How could others allow you to place a bomb capable of killing them whenever you like? Don't be too greedy, Libra, a peak Tier 9 alchemist, advised. Alright, we still have many things to do, Fialon said. A few million years later. Ha ha ha, I didn't think it would be possible, Libra said, looking at his masterpiece. Yeah, who would have thought that it was possible to turn the whole continent into an alchemy product? Sax sighed. Countless epochs ago, they were still minding their own business and their own interests. But now, due to a common problem, they bonded together and, regardless of resources, created a miracle. With this, we can have unlimited resources, Fialon said. With the formation array and the Arcane Continent turned into an alchemy product, the whole land could absorb the chaotic wind in the endless sea. This should be barely enough to start the plan, Fialon murmured. With the completion of the needed resources, the 12 powerhouses created the Origin Arcana Institute and recruited people from all over the Ethereum realm. Millions of trillions of individuals from around the world flocked to the Origin domain for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. With almost unlimited resources, most of these talented individuals reached Tier 8 Mage or Knight level in just a million years. However, despite the progress, a dark atmosphere loomed inside a conference room.
How is the result of your divination?
Fialon asked. Not good. Those lunatics from the Nexus continent are indeed crazy, Silner sighed. They started to hunt these budding Tier 8 Knights and Mages, he added.
Can't they just wait?
The plan is already showing results, and we are about to witness new Tier 9 powerhouses being born in the Ethereum realm, Sax said pitifully. There can only be 12 Tier 9 powerhouses in each continent, and the birth of a new powerhouse is a clear signal that their plan is working. No way, they're battle lunatics with nothing to do. They claim they were merely testing the people we trained, Silner explained. The peaceful training had indeed left these new individuals relatively powerless. But who cared? They wanted quantity over quality. As long as they produced enough Tier 9 powerhouses, they could promote the world. They had already helped enough. How could they still worry about their weak combat power? Just warn them not to do it again. I will think of a solution for the weak combat power, Fialon sighed, having a headache over these crazy lunatics. With the warning, the lunatics in the Nexus continent curbed their fangs and watched as the powerhouses in the Arcane continent developed a solution. Is that really necessary? Amara, a battle goddess who mastered nature, questioned.
What's the use of weaklings?
I would rather be assimilated than have these weaklings do us any favors, Malgorn coldly said. Malgorn was the strongest battle god in the whole Ethereum realm, mastering all types of combat. He was a miraculous being born in the Ethereum realm, capable of killing a Tier 9 being with a mortal body. Of course, this was an exaggeration, but it illustrated how monstrous Malgorn's talent was. He had not attended the gathering millions of years ago as he disdained to team up with anyone. Then what about voluntarily assimilating to the world? Valoros, a battle sage who was born wise, proposed. Assimilate? Do you want to be like that trash god from the divine continent? Malgorn angrily retorted. Of course not. How can I put my safety in the hands of mere weaklings like mortals? Valoros sneered.
Then what do you propose?
Malgorn asked. We just need to partially merge our battle insights with the Nexus continent. With this, we can avoid being fully assimilated into the world but instead, consolidate our battle insights. Furthermore, anyone who pursues our path can be our carrier.
We can be immortal and never be slain.
Valoros suddenly had an epiphany as his eyes lit up. Interesting, Malgorn murmured as he thought about the feasibility of the plan. Why don't we make it so that anyone who can surpass us in this path becomes the next master? Malgorn said as his eyes lit up with battle intent.
Why do that? What if someone really surpasses us?
Wouldn't that put us at their mercy? Valoros asked, clearly not in favor of the plan.
So what?
If someone can surpass me in my own path, that would only make me incompetent, Malgorn said, firmly making up his mind.
But just do what I said.
Remember, you must add this clause when you are creating the assimilation method, Malgorn warned, looking at the timid Valoros. Malgorn would rather die than condone this weak thinking. If they could truly become immortal, they would sooner or later be intoxicated by this power. However, with this kind of clause, who could be lazy, thinking that someone would replace them if they slacked off? Chapter 92 Truth About the World 2. A few thousand years later, in the center of the origin domain. Did you say you found a solution? Fialon asked. Yes, I found an interesting seedling who proposed a solution, Libra said as he sat leisurely across the table.
Oh, could it be alchemy?
Fialon asked. Knowing that Libra majored in alchemy, he figured the solution might lie within that field. No, that brat called it mechanics, Libra angrily said. Remembering the hoaxes the brat was talking about, something related to the natural ways of the world, etc., etc.
Oh? What kind of mechanics?
Fialon asked. A branch of alchemy or perhaps another profession? Libra said not sure. He didn't know the limits of the mechanic profession, so he was uncertain. Anyway, he proposed to use the unlimited mana that flows in the origin domain to create an unprecedented mechanic device, or so he said, Libra explained. Bring him here to explain, Fialon said. Libra just nodded as he released his powerful consciousness, enveloping the whole domain until he found the brat Astrid.
Where am I?
Astrid murmured to himself as he looked around. Seeing two of the apex sovereigns, he was shocked but quickly regained his composure. I've seen the two apex sovereigns, Astrid said. You're here, Libra said, looking at him like a piece of rough jade. Can you continue talking about the mechanic device thing? Libra asked, not sure. Astrid still didn't know that the man he was talking to about his idea earlier was one of the apex sovereign's clones, Libra. This? Astrid didn't know what to say for a while. The one you spoke to was one of my clones, Libra said as he projected a picture of his clone. Why yes, Astrid nearly sweated. He remembered that he had talked a lot of nonsense, even bragged that his way called mechanics was a challenge to this muddle-headed alchemist. While alchemy is great and all, it lacks innovation. It's not that it's bad, but the way of alchemy is to bend the rules and laws to your own advantage. This is where the problem of lack of innovation starts. Doing this thing is heaven-defying, without countless verification and trial and error, you can only fail. So, most alchemy devices are either an upgraded version of another or a derivation of something. But mechanics follow the rules and laws of the world, making it easy to create new things, thus leading to innovation. Is the Lord Apex Sovereign talking about the mechanic's ability to use natural mana? Astrid asked to confirm. Libra just nodded. Well, unlike alchemy, mechanics follow the laws and rules of the world, so it is naturally blessed by the world that it can use natural mana in the atmosphere on its own. Astrid then explained his approach to mechanics and why it's able to use natural mana. Alchemy bends the rules and laws, so it can't use the natural mana in the atmosphere, requiring the one who uses it to personally input mana. This problem was solved in later generations, but it can only utilize crystallized mana. A few million years later, in the center of the origin domain, a huge crystal ball hovered in the air. Ha ha ha. The great Astrid finally did it. Astrid yelled, still in messy attire. In these few million years, he fully devoted himself to this masterpiece without any rest. Fortunately, he was already tier 8, so it wasn't a big deal, but it greatly consumed Asterix's will and sanity. Nice one, brat, Libra said as he teleported towards him, feeling the disturbance in mana. Oh, the little one finally finished his school project. Sax joked as he came with the others who also felt the disturbance of mana.
Now, we have an enormous mana generator.
Astrid said as his eyes lit up.
Tell us, little Astrid, what is it about? What is this mana generator?
Sax asked, puzzled. He wondered what function this device floating in the air was. Lord Sax, in short, the mana generator can convert mana to the energy that the alchemy device uses, Asterisk explained briefly. Good, we could now create something to train the students' combat power, Fialon said. He was going bald due to the urging from the people of Nexus Continent to make up for the combat power of the students they train. Now that there is this huge hunk of metal, I can finally create an alchemy device without worrying about the power supply, Libra said. He had been thinking of creating an alchemy device that can project the spiritual consciousness of those students into a virtual world, so they can fight without any damage. However, such an alchemy device is not something he can use, due to the lack of mana. After all, millions of trillion of people in a virtual world fighting together is not something his little mana can handle. As for how can the whole continent function when it was made of alchemy, well, because it's part of the world, naturally, it is blessed by the world. I think you should take a look at. It's like your son, even if he disobeys you, you would still love and bless him. Then let's start with your idea, Libra, Fialon said. Alright, but I need the help of Sax, and you too, little brat, Libra said. A few million years later, in the center of the origin domain. Come see if it's alright, Libra said as he handed them a token. It's great, it only needed a runic program to run, Fialon nodded, looking at the little token that was connected to the alchemy device. Leave it to me, Sax said. Creating a runic program is like setting up an array, so Sax thought it would be easy. A few thousand years later. The battle runic program you created is running smoothly, Libra commended. The first runic program Sax created was a battle arena which quickly became popular with the students. Yes, even those battle fanatics from Nexus Continent came to try it and have already become addicted, Fialon said with a smile. After all, in the virtual arena, you can fight to your heart's content without dying, which is why it became popular. A few tens of epochs later, all 48 powerhouses gathered together. With the gradually improving training routine of people from the arcane continent, a peaceful and booming Ethereum realm was presented in just tens of epochs. Is this the first Tier 9 powerhouse? Riadius said as he looked at the man condensing his law. Yes, he's a talent from the Nexus Continent, Fialon said, regretfully. Unfortunately, it was someone from the Nexus Continent who achieved it first. As expected, people from our continent are more talented, Valoros arrogantly said. You're just lucky as shit, Alabaster said angrily. After all, their beastmen are the slowest to train, which made him grit his teeth. Let's just wait and see, Amalgren finally spoke, silencing the others. He was a big boss, the strongest man in the Ethereum realm. He was the reason that even though people from Nexus Continent were reckless, they just turned a blind eye as long as it wasn't too much. A few thousand years later, there was a movement below. The aura gathered towards the center, forming a cyclone with the form of a sword. After 100 years of precipitation, a man came out. Ha ha ha, the sword god Alistair Dawnsblade, finally succeeded. Alistair laughed joyfully in the air. Far away, they look at Alistair celebrating like a little kid. It looks like your junior is a bit arrogant, Fialon joked as he looked at the silent Malgren. Just a brat. It's your sissy training routine that made him like this, Malgren said coldly. Fialon didn't know what to say for a while. Alistair, who was still laughing joyfully, finally noticed the 48 peak powerhouses watching him. Remembering his childish act, he felt embarrassed for a while. I met the Apex Sovereigns, Alistair said respectfully. Although he was also a Tier 9, he knew that there was still an enormous difference between them. You don't need to call us that, you're also one of us now, Valoros said with a smile. While they were celebrating the birth of a new powerhouse, they also felt the shackles of the world loosening. With a few thousand more, it would be finished, Fialon said as he sighed. It may seem like it's still a long time, considering it took them tens of epochs just for one to be promoted to Tier 9. But after experiencing countless epochs, an epoch felt like a day to them. Just a few more epochs. Malgren, who was watching, thought silently. His goal was different from the others. While others were scared of being assimilated by the world, he was more afraid that he would have no opponent. These Tier 9 powerhouses beside him were not enough for him to warm up. If not for the world being so fragile, he'd like for them to join forces and fight him for enjoyment. That is why he yearned for what was beyond the world, and by reaching Tier 10, he could break this barrier. While they were feeling the loosening shackles of the world, Silner, a Tier 9 powerhouse who specialized in divination, spoke loudly. Not good. Something evil is attracted to the Ethereum realm. Chapter 93 Truth about the Word 3. Not good. Something evil is attracted to the Ethereum realm, Silner said loudly. What evil are you talking about? Fialon, who was beside him, asked. It's a huge mass of evil, Osilner said nervously. Although he is a Tier 9 seer, all he can calculate are the things in the Ethereum realm. He only knew that there is an evil who noticed Ethereum realm because the instinctive will of the world itself gave him a vision. How dangerous is it? Fialon asked seriously, even though he didn't know what his old friend Silner was talking about. Just seeing him nervous is enough for him to take this seriously. I don't know, but the worlds will instinctively felt danger, as Silner then began to calm down. Based on my calculations, we only have a few million years before that thing reaches us. Because of Silner's warning, the celebration was cut off and they returned to their own territory. Using their own methods, they confirmed one by one the evil thing that Silner was talking about. In the divine continent. TSK, what an evil thing. If this reaches our world, it will instantly swallow and corrode us, Redius said.
What should we do?
Nixus, the god of the moon, asked. We can either sacrifice all the people or sacrifice some Tier 9 powerhouses, Radius said, looking in the direction of Nexus continent. Of course, they were reluctant to sacrifice their people as they are their foundation. The perfect target for sacrifice would be the powerhouses from Nexus continent. Around the Nexus continent, all the powerhouses from the 3 continents came to Nexus continent as if in agreement. You're here, old fox, Redius said mockingly when he saw Fialon from Arcane continent. No way. Fialon could only sigh. The powerhouses from Nexus continent are the perfect sacrifice in this time of danger.
What do you want coming here in our territory?
Valoros asked, looking at the malicious powerhouse glaring at him. You should know about the danger outside our realm, Redius started. We plan to adapt your plan tens of epochs ago, to sacrifice people to strengthen the world.
Oh?
Then why are you here? Shouldn't you start killing your people? Don't worry, we will also sacrifice the people of Nexus continent for the greater cause, Valoros said as if not knowing their intention. Don't play dumb, Valoros. We know you're virtually immortal, this sacrifice should not hurt you, Redius said. The other people also nodded. When they gathered earlier, they noticed something different about the powerhouses of Nexus continent, as if they followed the path of the gods and became divine, but not quite right. After further deduction, they came to the conclusion of such an ingenious method. Not only do they not have to worry about being assimilated into the world, but they can also become immortal in a literal sense. Unfortunately, it's too late. They didn't have enough time to follow the path of the people from the Nexus continent.
Otherwise, why bother with these hardy, stubborn battle maniacs? So what if we're immortal?
Valoros said with a bit of anger. He was not angry because of possible death, he was angry because they were being treated as mere sacrifices. After all, even though he, Valoros, was timid, he became the battle sage through a mountain of corpses. So death is like going home for him, and knowing that he can still revive further dilutes this notion of death.
How about I ask Malgren?
After calming down, Valoros thought of the opinion of Big Boss Malgren.
This?
The others hearing him said had an ugly face. Although they would not admit it, they don't know why, but facing Malgren, even though they're all Tier 9 peak powerhouses, is quite scary. Valoros, seeing their different reactions, felt a little joy. Seeing this ugly expression, he called for Malgren anyway.
What?
Malgren teleported toward them and asked. You should know about the evil thing coming here, Fialon said, trying to calm him down lest he goes crazy. I know, Malgren said calmly. He was busy earlier because of this. He communicated with the instinctive will of the Ethereum realm to see if it can send him directly toward this evil thing. Different from others who saw this as a crisis, he saw this as a challenge. If it were not for the restriction blocking him from this world, he would have already rushed toward that evil thing.
So you know?
Fialon then nervously explained their plan, using the powerhouses from Nexus continent as sacrifices.
Humph.
Malgren looked at them condensing, which scared the hell out of them, that they nearly escaped. Although Malgren was angry, he also knew that this is the best plan. The Ethereum realm is indeed too weak that it can't even send him directly to the enemy. Then you should make them a sacrifice while fighting. Malgren finally compromised. He also wanted to see if the Ethereum realm can send him to the enemy after this sacrifice.
Why you will not join?
Fialon asked in surprise. Do you want me to? Malgren looked at them who were timid like sissies that he instantly lost his fighting intent. And no, of course not. They didn't fare to fight this monster.
Humph.
Malgren then looked at Valoros. Ready for battle, you should kill 1 or 2 to vent your anger. Sure, I'll make sure they enjoy this sacrifice. Valoros smiled. I think you should take a look at. 1,000 years later, the huge evacuation of people from Nexus continent was finished. Looking at the whole continent that was still bustling with activity a while ago, now empty, Valoros sighed. Are you ready? Valoros asked the other 10. Ha ha ha. We'll cut some flesh off these weaklings, Draven, who was skilled in hammer weapons, said excitedly. Knowing that they were going to be besieged and sacrificed, he was not scared at all, he was even a little excited. Where's the little newbie? Amara asked, seeing that Alistair was not here. He's still consolidating his strength after his advancement, he even has no idea what's happening in the continent now, Valoros smiled. Alistair is also an immortal, because they had already condensed battle insight in the Nexus continent. After he became a Tier 9, Alistair's battle insight is automatically included, making him immortal. After the preparation, a horrific battle ensued within the Nexus continent. This was later known as the Battle of Gods. The cause is unknown, which led to a lot of hearsay spreading in the world unknowingly. In this battle, 18 Tier 9 powerhouses died and were sacrificed, with the Nexus continent having 12 casualties, the Divine continent having 4, and the Beast continent having 2. The people from the Arcane continent were too cunning, always hiding at the rear, and thus had no casualties. Earlier, after they killed and sacrificed 11 powerhouses from Nexus continent. Should we also kill this newbie? Sax from the Arcane continent asked. Yes, a pity. Fialon sighed, looking at Alistair feeling sorry, after all, he was also a student from Origin Arcana Institute. Just that, I think Valoros and the others didn't remind him of this event, Libra on the side didn't know what expression to make. Anyway, he will revive later, just explain it to him. Just regard this as a lesson to always pay attention to your surroundings, Fialon said seriously. The 3 used all their strength to bombard Alistair, who still had no idea what was going on. What's going on? Alistair only saw a bright light and vague figures of people from the Arcane continent as he began to disintegrate. People from Arcane continent, wait for me. Alistair's last thought, still not knowing what happened. In the place where Alistair died, a faint phantom of Amara emerged. Poor kid, you were bullied badly, Amara sighed at Alistair's fate. He was only promoted to Tier 9 and had a bright future ahead of him, but he stumbled upon this catastrophe. Don't worry, I'll make sure you revive earlier, to repay the others. Amara, using her initiate weapon, put her soul fragment and Alistair's soul fragment, nurturing it with nature, to revive themselves earlier. After the battle, the Nexus continent was torn into various bits, with only less than 10% of it still floating from the endless sea. It should be enough. Malgren in the sky looked at the torn Nexus continent as he felt the surging power that strengthened the world. Can you send me? Malgren communicated with the instinctive world's will. As if hearing his words, a repulsing force wrapped around Malgren, sending him to the void. Amidst the torn battlefield, the remaining powerhouses looked at the sky as they felt Malgren leaving the Ethereum realm. Is that lunatic really going to that evil thing? Restius asked himself. Don't doubt that lunatic, Alabaster said, looking at the sky. Huh. At least we are safe. We just need to wait and everything will be over. Fialon sighed, hoping the Ethereum realm would hurry and upgrade to accommodate Tier 10. Countless years later, the Nexus continent returned to calm as the people who were evacuated earlier came back. Although it was only a tenth of the land compared to the past, it was enough for them as very few came back. With the liveliness of Nexus continent, the battle between peak powerhouses gradually faded from memory. However, as if a curse, corrosive mana suddenly penetrated the land of Nexus continent. What do you think? Fialon asked Silner. It should be because of the previous battle, the barrier around the Nexus continent became fragile, as Silner said. Sigh, we can only cover the land with formations, I hope the corrosive mana will not spread, Fialon sighed. Sax, it's up to you, Fialon said. I will do my best, Sax said, looking at the corrosive mana that was invading the Nexus continent. I hope Malgren will not blame us too much. In the present time in the Abyss, you can see a man fighting a humongous evil aggregate monster as if he was strolling in the garden. Upon closer look, you can see that his eyes were closed as if meditating. After a while, his eyes opened. Is someone thinking of me? Malgren murmured. This man is Malgren, who was sent here to fight the evil aggregate that was coming for the Ethereum realm countless epochs ago. Thanks to him, this evil aggregate that Malgren called the Abyss didn't get closer to the Ethereum realm. While he was thinking, an Abyss monster suddenly took the chance to attack, disintegrating his lower body. A very nice reaction, little monster. Malgren only looked at the half of his body as he countered the attack, splitting the Abyss monster into countless pieces using his bare hands. As he fought, the disintegrated lower body suddenly grew out like nothing happened. Let's do a warm-up after an epoch of sleeping, Malgren said, as if he just woke up. Chapter 94 Start of the Trial. In the present time at the Celestial Ascent Path, virtual world. In the sky, Fialon looked down at the people below as he reminisced. You should know about Celestial Ascent Path, Fialon said as he calmed down. The people below looked silent as if they already knew the rules. You need to climb to the 1000th step to become a seeker, and you can stay in Origin Arcana Integer indefinitely until you die or ascend to Tier 7, Fialon explained carefully. You have 100 days to ascend your way to the 1000th step. After you become a seeker, you can choose to climb up to the 100,000th step and become an official student. Without further ado, you may begin, Fialon said as he disappeared, making the black-colored sky turn back to white.
Let's go,
Maximus said to his wives as he noticed others heading towards the stairs. They nodded. As they walked toward the stairway, others also followed. This stair is so huge, his wife Erica said. The stair looks like it was made for giants, as it has a towering height of at least 10 meters. Despite the number of participants, there was still plenty of space to stand, as the length of the stairway seemed endless. This is just a simulation of the real Celestial Ascent Path. I don't know how grand the real thing is, Maximus said in wonder. It is said that this virtual Celestial Ascent Path can only simulate up to 100,000 steps, Griffin on the side nodded. Then let me try this thing, Maximus said as he jumped toward the first stair. As he landed, an unknown force suddenly descended on his spirit, attempting to crush it. Thankfully, with his powerful soul, he quickly adapted. Come up and try, Maximus said below. As they jumped, they also struggled for a few seconds before coming back to normal.
How is it?
Maximus asked them. Ha ha ha, it's easy. Passing this trial is a sure thing, a Griffin bragged. It's only the first step, the difficulty will be multiplied as you go up, Fawn said beside him. Anyway, I will try to pass, whatever it takes, Griffin said forcefully. Then let's continue, Maximus said. As they went up, the pressure increased. On the first step, it only took them a few seconds. On the second, it took a minute. On the 10th, an hour. On the 101th step. How is it? Can you still go on? Maximus asked his wives concerned. As for Griffin and his friends, they had already gone ahead. They were battle-hardened and had already experienced the trial once or twice. As for Griffin, he had Tier 8 Supreme Battle Aptitude. When he saw this earlier, he was greatly shocked. It's all right, husband. Maybe it's time to take the illusion test to hasten our progress, Erica explained. At their current pace, they were not going to pass the trial on time if they only relied on themselves to adapt to the spiritual pressure. Are you sure? Maximus asked. He looked at the one by one to confirm. Don't worry, we know our limits. Then just try it here, Maximus compromised, as he let them try the illusion trial. All right. They then began to radiate their spiritual consciousness as they accepted the trial. As they began the illusion trial, a prompt came from his system. Spiritual interference detected. This startled him a little. He didn't know that the system still had this function. After inspecting, he came to know that after the consummation of their marriage, the system bound his wife's souls to him. This facilitated the collection of life points and slightly influenced his wives. More importantly, it could protect and detect any danger towards their souls. After a few minutes of inspecting the system, his wives woke up one by one.
How is it?
Maximus asked. It's amazing. A few weeks passed in the illusion, yet only a few minutes passed here, Erica reacted as she noticed the surrounding. What happened? It's about completing missions. For me, it's to earn 1,000 gold, Erica said. Fortunately, Erica had learned spiritual cooking and had experience setting up a restaurant, so earning 1,000 gold was quite easy. For me, it's becoming a little official, Hazel said. She was a farmer in the past, and becoming a little official was a new experience for her. For me, it's killing a whole bandit den, Luna said. The others also shared their experiences one by one, and more or less, it would take a genius mortal to finish each task. Then let's get going, Maximus said as he used one life point to completely adapt to the 11th step. A day later, at the 100th step.
How is it?
Maximus asked them. You should go ahead, husband, Erica said, looking at Maximus, who didn't have any sign of fatigue. Yes, dear, we need to rest. Although there are blessings that strengthen our will, the memories in the illusion still need to be digested, Hazel also said. They took the illusion trial nonstop, from a few weeks at the start to a few months. Fortunately, no matter how long the illusion is, it's only a few minutes in reality. Then I'll go ahead, Maximus agreed, looking at them. After all, he needed to get to the 100,000th step in 100 days to become an official student and set a foothold for his family. Unfortunately, they couldn't take a potion, otherwise it would be easier. I think you should take a look at. After saying goodbye to his wives, he jumped towards the 101st step. Feeling the pressure, he used life points. +1 LP. +1 LP. +1 LP. +1 LP. Maximus used life points one by one. After he got used to it, he jumped toward 102th step. 103th. 104th. 105th. 106th. A few hours later, at the 300th step, Maximus saw Griffin, who had come ahead of them yesterday, resting. Hey, Griffin, Maximus greeted. You're here, Maximus, Griffin, looking tired, said. How is the trial? Is it still easy? Maximus teased, seeing their somewhat empty eyes. It's a breeze, Griffin said, even though he looked like a dead man. You should take it easy, anyway, there are still more than 98 days, Maximus consoled. Thanks, Griffin weakly said. Then take a rest, I'll go ahead. Maximus climbed at the rate of 1 stair per minute. As he got higher and higher, the number of people decreased, making it less crowded. 12 hours later, at the 999th step. On the last floor before the 1000th step, there was a line of people resting. Seeing them just sitting there, he got curious and approached a man nearby. Excuse me, Maximus called. What? The man opened his eyes and looked at Maximus with a bit of annoyance. What are you doing here? Isn't the last step above? Maximus asked. You don't know? The man asked, puzzled. Could it be it's your first time taking this trial? The man asked in shock. You know, they are old-timers, so it only took them more than a day to get to the 999th step. Seeing a newcomer easily reach here on his first try made the man envious. It's indeed my first time taking this trial, Maximus nodded. I see, you were asking why we stayed here? The man became more respectful after knowing Maximus got here in just more than a day. It's because the spiritual pressure in the 1000th step is on a different level. We hope to refine our will a bit more and wait for the last day to make sure, the man explained. Oh, Maximus nodded, understanding. The life points he needed to get up ranged from a few days to a few weeks. As for others, they could only get 100 days per 10 years until they were over 100 years old to refine their will. For him, he only needed to add a few life points and he is good to go. Then good luck. Not interested anymore, he took a step toward the 1000th step. 1000th step? He slowly felt the spiritual pressure to see if it was worthy of its title. The spiritual pressure was at least 10 times stronger than the 999th step. No way others can pass this without a few tries, Maximus murmured as he shook his head. It seems that I will need to help them later. Maximus had noticed earlier that when there was spiritual interference towards his wife, he could use his system to send help. In the illusion trial, he could enter their illusion to assist them in completing their tasks. Let's hope my life points are enough to reach the 100,000th step, he thought. In the sky, hidden in the virtual world. Oh? It looks like another promising seedling, Fialon said as he saw Maximus easily clearing the 1000th step. Only rank 6 divine aptitude, but a stronger will, Fialon couldn't help but nod. For someone who had lived countless epochs, standing atop the world, aptitude meant nothing. It's the will and creativity that matters. Low mana compatibility? Low comprehension? With time, all of it could be disregarded. Without a strong will, how could you remain sane after countless epochs? Without creativity, even if you had heaven-defying comprehension, you would just end up copying what your predecessors did. So, Fialon couldn't help but nod, seeing Maximus pass the test with ease, proving a strong will. But he didn't know that Maximus used a cheat to pass the trial. After all, even though time can temper will, it's still too slow. Unless you can accelerate time as Maximus did.
Chapter 95 Climbing 100,000 Step. In the 1000 step,
Maximus tap on life points to quickly adapt to the spiritual pressure.
+1 LP. +1 LP. +1 LP.
+1 LP x 197. Feeling the pressure disappear, he continued to move up. 1001 th step. 1002 th step. 1003 th step. 21 days later after the start, at the 30,000th step.
Huh? Are there still people up here?
Maximus murmured as he saw some people resting on the stairs. After he got to more than 10,000 steps, there were no more people. He thought that was it, who knew that there were still people here. Without thinking too much, he continued to climb up. 42 days later after the start, at the 60,000th step.
There are no more?
Maximus thought. After climbing to the 50,000th floor, the people on the stairs were getting sparser and sparser. The last one he saw people were around the 55,100th step. This should be their limit without Tier 9 talent or extraordinary ability, he concluded. 63 days later after the start, at the 90,000th step.
Huh?
Another one? It should be a ruthless person, Maximus said. He called this person ruthless because he noticed the celestial ascent path blessing this person to strengthen his will. This meant that this person underwent an illusion trial to get here, which means millions of years' worth of illusion experience. Without enough courage and skill to finish the trial, taking the illusion trial at this stage is equal to suicide. As for those he saw earlier, they relied on special physique or something that nourished their will. 71 days later, 100,000th step. Finally, Maximus sighed in relief. He was a little tired these days. Although he used life points to get here, he still had to bear the pressure himself. Looking around, he saw two people. The one on the left is a man with an aspiring aura like a knight. And the other is like a soft water spirit that can seduce you with a look. Another one came in, the man on the left said. Hello, Maximus greeted them. I'm Ragnar, the man said. Maximus said with a smile. Maximus looked at the girl, waiting for her to speak. Lilith, she said timidly, contrary to her seductive appearance.
How long did it take you to get here?
Maximus asked curiously. I took less than a day, Ragnar proudly said.
What?
Maximus asked, checking if there was something wrong with his ears. I said, I finished the trial on the first day, Ragnar repeated.
Fuck!
Maximus inwardly cursed. What kind of monster is this, he thought. You know, even with a Tier 9 aptitude, you still need time to adapt to the spiritual pressure. But to reach here within a day means that the spiritual pressure is almost negligible, like a normal day. Amazing, Maximus praised, trying to hide his surprise. And you, big sister? Maximus asked. I'm the same, Lilith timidly replied. She is born in the spirit domain, so it's normal, Ragnar explained, seeing Maximus's puzzled expression. As for me, my father is a Tier 9 cosmic knight, so I received training early on, and with my Tier 9 talent, it's easy, Ragnar explained, afraid that Maximus might not know incredible he is. Oh, it's really good to have an apex sovereign level father, Maximus said calmly. Ha ha ha, don't worry, seeing your talent, I'll take you as my little brother, Ragnar said, satisfied with Maximus's attitude.
By the way, why are you still here?
Maximus didn't answer and diverted the question. It's because of the Dean, Ragnar said fearlessly. We need to stay here until the end of the trial, Ragnar explained.
Why is that?
Because the old Dean is a show-off, Ragnar said, without providing further details. Then we can only wait here, Maximus shrugged his shoulder. Curious, he scanned Ragnar's status. Ragnar Grimthirst, 13 years old. Tier 3 Mage/Knight. Rank 9 Battle God Body. Mana Amplitude 1000x. I think you should take a look at. Looking at his status, Maximus was shocked not by Ragnar's age and strength. Given that he has a Tier 9 father, his strength as a Tier 3 is already low. What shocked Maximus was Ragnar's mana amplitude. His mana amplitude is only a little over 100. Of course, Maximus only used about 1,000 years worth of life points as he was accumulating them. Considering Ragnar's age of 13, the only possibility for him to reach a 1000x mana amplitude is by using some sort of time chamber. This is the benefit of having a Tier 9 father. It's like having a full-level cheat code. Compared to his system, he still needed to earn and buy resources. Meanwhile, Ragnar only needed to open his mouth and someone will feed him the needed resources. As for why Ragnar's mana amplitude is only 1000x and not more, it's because that's the limit that someone with tier 3 strength can achieve. For tier 1, it's 3x mana amplitude, for tier 2, it's 10x mana amplitude, and for tier 3, it's 1000x. After being shocked, he continued to look at Lilith. Lilith Soulheart, 23 years old. Rank 4 Elemental Mage. Rank 8 Aptitude.
Mana amplitude, 10,000x.
Fit, 108. Another ruthless one, Maximus thought. Although her mana amplitude is not the highest which can be achieved at tier 4 100,000x, it's still amazing. After all, it took Maximus 1,000 years to reach 100x, so to reach 10,000x, Lilith must have put in at least 100,000 years worth of study.
108?
He nearly blurted out as he noticed the fit value. Is it possible to exceed 100? Maximus questioned himself. After inquiring in the system, he confirmed that it is indeed possible. Furthermore, the additional fit value can multiply the daily points generation. For example, if you can normally get 1000 points with a fit value of 108, it'll be multiplied by 8, making it 8000 points. Knowing this, he turned his attention to the silent Lilith. Normally, he didn't have much motivation to find another wife, but Lilith's contradictory stature of being seductive and innocent at the same time is really tempting. As for the points he can get, which is 800 million life points daily, that's just an addition, maybe? As he walked towards Lilith, she became visibly nervous. Hello, Maximus greeted as he unceremoniously settled next to her.
Hello?
Lilith didn't know what to say for a while. Ragnar, who came back to meditate, saw this and raised an eyebrow.
Oh?
This new little brother of mine is a little courageous, Ragnar murmured. He knew something about Lilith's background, although not as grand as his with a tier 9 father, but equally unfathomable. I heard you lived in Spirit Domain. Can you tell me about it? Maximus said with a smile. Rule no. 1 with shy girls, take initiative and be shameless. This? Lilith looked at Maximus, thinking about what to say. The ruler of Spirit Domain is Freya Soulheart and it's beautiful there, Lilith said hesitantly. Although she lived in the Spirit Domain, she was kept in a castle and didn't know what the outside looked like. This was her first time outside, which is why she was so shy. Soulheart?
Isn't that Lilith's last name?
Maximus thought. Oh, do you know the Apex Sovereign? Although he was shocked, he calmed down and asked. It's I don't know, Lilith nearly slipped and almost mentioned my sister. Although it was a known fact among other powerhouses, her sister had told her to hide their relationship. Why don't I tell you a story? Maximus said playfully, realizing that this little girl didn't know much. Rule no. 2, if she can't speak, make her comfortable.
All right.
Lilith said excitedly. Although she didn't like talking, she certainly liked someone who could tell her interesting things. Then I'll tell you about 91 days later, 9 days before the 100-day deadline. Can you continue the story of how the princess escaped from the castle? Lilith said to Maximus excitedly. In 20 days, Maximus had captivated this innocent little girl with his storytelling tricks. During these 20 days of flirting with Lilith, he also monitored his wives through his system. Apparently, it also had this function, which was very convenient. After some probing, he came to know that Lilith was the little sister of Freya, a tier 9 powerhouse. This nearly scared him to death, as how could a little tier 3 ant have the guts to trick an Apex Sovereign's little sister? But I already told you that, Maximus had a headache. This story had already been repeated at least 100 times, and he was nearly numb. In desperation, he even changed the version of the story so he wouldn't get bored. But this seemed to stimulate Lilith even more, making her more excited. Anyway, just tell me her other tricks for escaping the castle, Lilith said, shaking his hand and looking pitiful. The reason Lilith was fascinated with this story was that one day she wanted to be that rebellious character. Just thinking of rebelling against her sister made her excited. She needed Maximus's story to give her more confidence. Then let me tell you how the princess tricked her sister, the Empress. Maximus said with no other choice. As he was telling Lilith the story, there was someone who reached the 100,000th step.